First, nobody out. Well hit to left center. Back goes Mosby, along with Bell. Forget it. Home run, Brett.
The one thing that I'm proud of most, and I say this sincerely, is spending my whole career with one team.
To Motley for the title.
My baseball career is not ending, it's just taking a different direction. I'm looking forward to my new role and hope I can help this organization get back to the winning tradition the fans of Kansas City deserve. I would like to thank my family for the support over many years. And I'd also like to thank the fans for making me feel at home for the last 20 years. Thank you.
2-2 pitch. Slaps it. Brett makes a fine play and comes home. What a play! Yeah, you can smile, George. Why not?
Oh, sad day and an emotional day for George Brett and the entire Royals franchise and all their fans as George basically bid his active playing days goodbye as a Kansas City Royal with that number 5 so familiar on his back. He will now move into the front office, and the man of the hour is with us tonight, George Brett. George, as we saw from that video, very emotional day for you yesterday, sprinkled with some of the highlights of your career. It was a bittersweet situation for you to finally say, hey, I've had enough of the game, and I'm going to go in the front office now and let somebody else play.
Well, it was stated after the game by some of my teammates that maybe I should change my mind and come back and play next year. And I said, no, I'm not going through yesterday again. That was too hard of a day. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, Frank. I was, and my wife will attest, I thought I was pretty calm all day. I knew what the decision was. I knew exactly what I was going to say. I was in my study, and I was writing down all these things. And I had a great concept of what the day was going to be like. Sure. But once you get there and you actually got to say, I'm retiring, you don't realize how hard those words are to say the first time. I said it to myself in the shower. I said it to myself in my study. I said it to myself in the car. But to say it in front of, you know, the United States and you people and good friends in that room was the hardest thing I ever had to do.
We're going to have some video of that emotional scene out at Kauffman Stadium yesterday, up in a banquet room above the Royal Stadium Club. And, you know, you talked about it last year. There were 3,000 hits. There was much speculation that you may end it then, but didn't. You came back this year, and but you knew a lot earlier than anyone else that this was going to be your last year.
Well, I had a feeling there was an emptiness somewhere when I got to the ballpark. The game wasn't that exciting. The success wasn't, it didn't feel that great. The failures didn't hurt as bad. The travel got me down. Sleeping in hotel rooms got me down. The autograph seekers at the ballpark, at the hotels, really got me down. And it just took a lot of fun out of the game. And for the first time in my life, the game was not a game anymore. It was a job. And I always said that I would never play baseball for the money. And I'd never worked in my life, to be honest with you. I graduated from high school, and I was drafted by the Royals the day, well, I signed the day I graduated. At 3 o'clock and jumped on a plane at 6 o'clock, for crying out loud. And I've been a baseball player my whole life. So when it became a job, that's when I realized that, hey, I still have a lot of integrity and I still have a lot of pride, but I'm not going to play anymore, because if I play anymore, I'm playing for the money. And that baseball deserves better than that. It really does.
And it was interesting, too, yesterday. I think Jamie Quirk, your good friend, knew for a long period of time that you were going to hang it up. Leslie knew for a while. But you said you never really sat your teammates down and say anything, but they just sort of knew. And you knew from the All-Star break on, basically, what you were going to say.
I don't know if it was the All-Star break. I just threw that out as a date. I was very disappointed and very low at the All-Star break. My performance was terrible. The team needed someone to take charge, and I was always the guy in the past to take charge, and I wasn't taking charge. They needed the performance I had today, we needed back then.
Right.
And we needed that a lot of times back then, but I wasn't able to step up and do it back then. It's a lot easier to do when you're mathematically eliminated. You know, we're you know, we can't finish first anymore. And I was the guy, or one of the guys, that the organization always leaned on or was able to come up and get the big hit to win a ball game. Well, my batting average with runners in scoring position this year is atrocious. I mean, it's embarrassing. I don't know what it is. I don't want to know what it is, to be honest with you. Because if I knew what it was, I wouldn't go to the park tomorrow. But it's just something that I knew I wasn't doing my job, and it was time to consider my options, and I considered them, and it didn't take long to convince me that I was doing the right thing, and I did the right thing on Saturday.
How much did retiring, not retiring, weigh on you as the season progressed? You know, am I going to make this decision? What kind of, and did that, do you think, affect your play?
I don't think it did, because I'm always the type of guy that can block things out and go out and play. In 1980, when I had to run a 400, yeah, I could talk about it before the game and after the game, but once the game started, there was one job at task, and that was to go out and give 100%, do the best I possibly could do, and help this team win ball games. And I took that same approach this year, and for good example, ever since I've announced my retirement, I'm playing better than I did before I announced it. So, you know, I was always able to go out there and do the best I possibly could. Now it may be a little easier, because I know, okay, there's no next year, there's not going to be a contract, and there's not going to be no hassles or anything from the organization. I'm going to go out. Everything is etched in stone, basically. Maybe not stone, but I'm pretty confident of what's going to happen. But it's just easier for me to go out there and relax and do what I'm capable of doing, and enjoy it a little bit. My brothers, all three of my brothers, my older brothers, told me, this is your 10 days. This is your last week of the season, of your career. Go out and enjoy it. Have fun. And that's what, I'll tell you what, today was as much fun as I've had in so many games. It's incredible.
Okay, well, an extremely emotional time for you yesterday, but your good buddy, Jamie Quirk, who you've gone through a lot of highs and lows with.
Well,
it was an extremely emotional situation for him, too, yesterday. Just listen to this. This is Jamie Quirk yesterday.
He's very special.
And he's never really forgotten his friends, either in or out of the game. I mean, he's always stayed loyal, hasn't he?
He's been a great friend.
Now, what do you have to say about your buddy Jamie?
Jamie's advice to me was, before the press conference, was don't cry. And I held back so many times trying not to cry. I'm starting to cry now by seeing the emotions that I have on my friend.
Yeah, you know, and during the press conference, you leaned over, you were real emotional, started to break up, and you leaned over to Mrs. K. What did you say to Mrs. K when you leaned over there?
I said, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. and by the way, that's a pretty big diamond ring you're wearing.
That's for sure.
No, I didn't say that, but I should have, to try to, you know, make fun and let me relax a little bit. But it was, Frank, the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Okay, we're going to get the Kleenex out, and we're going to dry up George a little bit here. Maybe, I wish we could dry up Jamie, but I don't think we're going to be able to do it. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the great moments in George Brett's career. And here's a little bit of history for you. George won batting titles in 3 decades, but 1980 saw him reach for that sacred 400.
Play baseball. No, I didn't. I thought I was better than he was. I was dead wrong in that count. But my father, you know, hopefully he is in heaven looking down on this, but my father thought he had a chance to be a pretty good ball player. My father was right.
3,000 hits when we were all in California. That was wonderful. But it's all been great. I mean, I never expected, I don't think anyone knows for sure when they first meet someone that they'll become that big a star, but he was, and he is, and he always will be.
Good guy. I mean, just really never changed over the years. From the first time knowing him for 20 years, and I mean, other than he matured, like everybody, same guy. Never big time anybody. He was the same person.
One of the great things that happens in sports is when the great players perform in the clutch situations. And time again, when it really counted, George Brett stepped up. And other players talked about wanting to be in that situation. But everybody in our team always wanted George Brett to be the guy at bat when we really needed it.
Skinnier back there.
Poor Doyle Alexander, Goose Gossage. They're all over that
well,
thing, right?
there are plenty of times I'll walk back to the dugout after facing them,
You bet. Interesting comment from your brother. Your brother was one heck of an athlete, great athlete.
Tremendous prospect. Tremendous. I mean, one of the all-time, to this day, prospects out of Southern California. It's unfortunate what happened to him in high school, not only in baseball, but in football. He broke his ankle his sophomore year and never got a chance to play football again. But from what I was told, I was just a youngster back then, could have went to any college in the country on an academic or baseball or football scholarship. And was drafted #1 pick by the Red Sox, youngest pitcher still ever pitched in the World Series. That was back in the days when if you didn't go in the service, you went in the reserves.
Right.
And I guess he went in the reserves for 2 weeks one summer and was having a good time with his buddies in the Army and didn't pick up a baseball and throw it for 2 weeks and then reported back to AAA where he was pitching and hurt his arm and had to change from a fireballer to a finesse pitcher. And, you know, he had a good career, but not to the potential which we all thought he would make. Okay,
let's talk about some of your highest moments. We did this one time last year, just before you went out to California to get your 3,000th hit. I'm going to fire some things out at you. We're going to have some video for you. You'll be able to just relive the moment.
Okay.
August 17th, 1980, you reached hallowed ground at that point. Batting average jumped over 400 out at Royal Stadium.
Well, I remember Mike Barlow was the pitcher, and that's him right there. He came in the night before and struck me out with, I think, 2 guys on in the 9th inning, and I had a chance to redeem myself. He came in the inning before, or the hitter before, and loaded up the bases, and I got a double over the left fielder's head. I remember John Wathan was sitting in front of me, and he walked him on 4 pitches, and John said to this day it's the biggest ovation he's ever gotten in his life. John's a good friend, you know.
Yeah, you bet.
Had a chance to visit with him this weekend when the Angels were in town.
Oh, you'll hear from him later, too, by the way.
Yeah,
yeah, you bet. Now, you
my
carried...
old roommate.
That's right. Now, you carried that 400 for a long time.
Longer than I expected. You know, I went over the mark with 6 weeks to go, and everybody came rushing into the locker room after the game saying, are you going to hit 400? And I'm going, well, you guys are a bunch of idiots because there's 6 weeks to go in the season, and no one's done it since, I mean, who was the last guy? Ty Cobb? Little did I know about the 400 mark then, and they said, no, Ted Williams did it in 1941, and to my surprise, I was over it for the next month, and with 2 weeks to go in the season, I found out after talking about it and thinking about it an awful lot, all of a sudden it became very, very important to me to do. And then I went out and I did the one drastic thing that I shouldn't have done, Frank. I went out and tried to hit 400. Instead of having fun and dealing with the media the best I could, I went out and tried to go 2 for 5 every night, or 4 for 10, or you know, 8 for 20, and I ended up getting down to 383. And then when all the media went back to their homes,
back to their holes.
Yeah, I figured, well, there's no chance I can hit 400. Everybody's gone home. I hit 500 the last week and got it back up to 390. So, you know, if I had to do it over again, which I'll never have the chance, you know, I learned a very valuable lesson.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, 1980 playoffs. You goosed the Yankees. Let's watch for a couple seconds.
Outfield deep at every position now with George Brett at the plate. Set by Gossage. High drive hit deep to right field. It is gone. 3-run home run by George Brett into the third.
Okay, off the goose.
Well, that was the biggest hit of my career up until that point, I think. It was, you know, losing to the Yankees in 76, 77, and 78, and then not making the playoffs in 79. Winning the first 2 games of the playoffs in Kansas City. We didn't want to lose the first game in New York because strange things happen in that city.
Oh, yeah,
you know, especially if you're a
just
small...
getting to the ballpark.
Yeah, but that's hard enough. I mean, how about beating those guys 3 straight? But... I mean, it was just weird. I really felt if we lost that game, we were going to lose because the way things went in 76 and 77, and to come up in a situation, UL Washington was sitting ahead of me, and they took Tommy John out of the game to pitch to UL, and he hit a chopper over the mound, and Bucky Dent or Willie Randolph couldn't throw him out. And the first pitch goose through to me, I hit it in the upper deck, and Quisenberry came in, and with his magic, he got out of a bases loaded, no out jam, and we ended up winning the ball game. But that was the biggest hit until that time in my career. It was by far the biggest thrill, you know, at that time.
Yeah, really, Mr. Kaufman's favorite play. Also, probably, as Dean Vogelaar said earlier, it probably defined. I'm sorry, Denny Matthews said that probably defined the Royals was the hit off of Goose Gossage. I mean, and put the Royals franchise out there and for everybody to see, hey, we're for real.
Yeah, well, we were for real in 1976 and 77 and 78. 1977, we had the best record in baseball. We had 102 wins and 60 losses.
Right.
And lost in 5 games to the New York Yankees. But, you know, people looked at us, you know, from all over the country, would look at us and see Kansas City, the small Midwestern town, versus the Big Apple. you know, we couldn't gain respect from them, and it was hard for us to gain respect. But I think once we beat them, we gained the respect of baseball fans throughout the country.
You bet. Okay, 1983, Yankee Stadium, a sticky situation. Let's take a look.
Yankees lead 4-3. 0-1 pitch to Brett. He hits it deep to right field. That could be out of here. The Royals lead. The Royals lead 5-4 on the home run by Brett.
Okay, you're trotting around the bases now. You have a home run. When do you get any inkling that Billy Martin is up to one of his old tricks?
Well, that was a Sunday afternoon game. I remember Buddy Black started the ball game, and I don't know if it shows here, but let's see right there. I haven't even touched home plate, or I'm just going to walk by. I didn't even see Billy Martin out there talking. You know, I didn't even see him. I was so happy that, yeah, gosh, I got another hit off Goose Gossage finally, you know.
Right. Now,
that's
there
what
you
I got was
dugout,
1980.
Right. That's right. Now, there you were in the dugout. Now they're measuring a bat.
Well, that's about time I'm sitting in the dugout, and at first they were contemplating that I corked my bat, and I didn't cork my bat then, and I don't now. I just got out of my words that, or out of my mouth, that if they call me out for using too much pine tar, I'll run out and kill some of those guys. I came to my senses. Joe Brinkman had a headlock on me.
That's right.
Yeah. Don't let your kids watch this part.
I have never seen you, you know, I've never seen you argue a call.
No.
Let alone do something like that. That was just an incredible moment for you. You're just a little hyped up there, weren't you?
New York brings out the best.
Okay, 1985, of course, the crowning moment. Let's go back for a second.
To Motley for the title.
Your favorite moment, isn't it?
Well, to this day, yeah. In my baseball career, I remember, you know, it was kind of, well, when's it going to happen? We're winning 11-0, I think. You know?
Yeah, is this over yet?
Yeah, we were taking bets in the dugout. We tried to get everybody to put in $100 in the pool. Whoever caught the last ball would get the money.
Oh, so Motley's
so
a rich man.
everybody agreed to do it, but then no one paid.
Oh. So Darryl Motley's still waiting.
Yeah, Darryl Motley, you know, we get telegrams from him every year.
That's right.
To see that, you know, after so many near, you know, in 76, 77, 78, 80, 81, losing the mini playoffs to Oakland, 84, Tiger sweeping us 3 straight, and then 85 finally winning it. It was more than I ever thought. And I remember that day I went to the football game. The Chiefs had a game across the street, and I was up in John Malkovich's suite. Well, who did I sit next to that day? Whitey Herzog. No. And it was about 3:30 in the afternoon, and Whitey Herzog says, "Hey, kid, come on, time for us to go to work." And that's when we left the Chiefs game, walked across the parking lot, got in the elevator together, and you know, Whitey and I are tremendous friends.
Right. He was here this weekend,
great friends,
too.
yeah, great friends. Taught me an awful lot about life and baseball, and fishing and golfing and things like that. But got out of the elevators, and you know, you kind of get out of the elevators, and you go to the right to the Royals locker room, the left to the visiting locker room, and that was it. It was Game 7. And I spent the day with Whitey Herzog, which, you know, I didn't know I was going to be sitting with Whitey at the Chiefs game, but that's who I sat next to.
That's an incredible story right there. Okay, last year, Anaheim, you joined a very exclusive club. Let's listen for a second.
Fortuno. George Brett, looking for the 3,000th hit of his career, smashes it off of Ken Oberkfell into right field, and that is number 3,000 for the great George Brett.
We thought maybe the next night you needed 4 hits, and you got 4 hits in one night.
Well, yeah, it was tough. I didn't play the first 2 games of that series because I pulled a muscle in my arm, or tore a muscle. I mean, my arm was black and blue from shoulder to elbow, and they had me up on the training table and cortisone shots the day before, and ice and hot packs, and you know, all kinds of medical treatment between each at bat that day. But time was running out, and it was important to me to get it last year, because I really thought, Frank, last year was going to be my last year.
Right.
And boy, am I glad I stuck around one more year. But it happened so quick. I didn't have time to prepare myself. It happened in 2 hours and 10 minutes.
That's right. Or to
2
enjoy
hours
it that
on
much.
the
It didn't seem like you really.
I mean, I got to hit my first at bat, the little blooper to left, and then I hit a little dribbler between first and second for another one. Then I hit a line drive up the middle for my 3rd one, and then that ball was the hardest ball I hit in the whole game. And well, it happened at 9:30. 9:30, and the game started at 7:30, so 2 hours later. I had no time for all that anticipation, which I thought, boy, I know I'm going to go to bed some night, and I'm going to have 2,999 hits, and I'm not going to be able to sleep.
Not that night.
Much like the last week of the season, you know, thus far. But but it happened so fast, and there was a contingency of people that flew out from Kansas City, and I didn't play the first 2 nights, and everybody, I could tell the look on their face, they weren't happy, and you know, it was just something, well, you know, you got to do it. The arm feels good enough to go out and play. Let me go out and play, hopefully get 1. All I wanted was 1, and not damage my arm anymore, and got 4 before I knew it, and it was a fantastic thrill for me.
Okay, now, this is typical of you. When you were on the injured list, typically you would come back off the injured list and just tear it up. Yesterday, you decided to retire. Today, you come back and just tear it up. Let's listen to today.
I'm 73 driven in. The wind and the 1-0 pitch. And there's a high fly ball. Right field, backing up to the wall. Javier at the wall, leaps. Gone! He got it out of here! He did it! He did it! George Brett.
Incredible. Great day for you today.
I don't understand it. Really, how could the game be so hard for 155 days and then become so easy in 1? I really don't understand it. The stress and the emotions and the good times, the bad times. But today was. I wish today would have happened Wednesday night. Or hopefully Wednesday night will have some drama to it, you know, and I won't go out and embarrass myself. But it was, today's a day I'll never forget.
Great. Okay, some magic moments from George Brett's career. When we come back, some of the baseball stats about George Brett that may surprise you or you may have never heard about before. George ranks near the top in many categories. Let's take a look at the company he keeps in a number of all-time doubles.
Before he hired Bobby, he said, why don't you be my agent? And I said, you know, I might have made the biggest mistake of my life because I could have made a living off of him. But, you know, you are right. I mean, he was 22, and he was having a good time. He enjoyed playing. He gave you everything on the field. But I had to slow him down a little bit. And if I did one thing I think that maybe helped him in his career, I talked to him more like a father and told him things I thought he could do and couldn't do, and mainly the fact that he had to get his rest. You know, you couldn't burn it at both ends, you know. But he was trying, but he was a good player anyway.
I can remember playing in San Jose with him in 1972, and he broke his foot and was sent home from San Jose to go to the beach in El Segundo, and broke his cast, and he came back and said, Doc, the cast is broken, what do I do now? And first of all, the doctor said, how'd you break your cast? He said, playing basketball. Put a new one on and said, don't do anything for a couple weeks and then come back and play. So, yeah, that's the way George is. He's so competitive in everything he has done and will do the rest of his life. I can see him playing basketball with his son Jackson in the driveway in about 8 years when Jackson's about 9 or 10 and trying to beat him, you know, really bad. Not giving him a break at all, you know.
So, two of your old-time buddies, Whitey Herzog, John Wathan, they know you pretty well, don't they?
Well, I didn't know that you had talked to those people, and I said, well, here's what Whitey's going to say. Well, I tell you, I had that Brett kid when he was about 21, 22 years old. And, you know, he used to like to go out, and he used to like to do this. I mean, I had him pegged. I knew exactly what he was going to say because, you know what, it is the truth.
Sure.
It was the truth.
You were well known to tear it up a little bit, yeah.
He was a tremendous influence on me. He was. One day I came into Yankee Stadium, and he saw me at 2:30 in the afternoon. And he looked at me, and this is way, way, way back in my playing career, and he said, Jesus Christ, well, how much sleep did you get last night, Brett? How much did you even go to sleep last night, you know? And that voice of his, and I said, well, I got enough sleep. He says, you look terrible. Go take a nap in my office.
and
I took a nap. He made me a sandwich and gave me a Coke and said, go sleep for a couple hours, and hopefully you'll be ready for game time. And, you know, back then I might have had a good game, but, you know, it was just part of growing up, and I learned the hard way, and, you know, who knows, if I would have taken better care of myself when I was 19 or 20 to 30, you know, maybe I wouldn't be retiring today, but it was a good education.
Yeah, and you really can't look at that anyway, so we're not going to worry about that. Let's take a look at some of the stats that maybe you don't even remember that we're going to take a look at to have some fun with. This one you will. Now, you missed more than about 430 games, we figured, since 1975. You're 12th on the all-time hit list now. You've averaged a hit a game in your career. So if you got 430 more hits, you'd be all the way up to 5th on the all-time list. Only Rose, Cobb, Aaron, Musial would be ahead of you. I mean, have you ever thought about that, or just something that you really had no control over because you played so hard?
Well, Frank, I think about it every day when I get up because I know I've missed 430 games by the way I walk to the bathroom. or walk to the shower, or walk to the kitchen, or whatever. And
hurts.
It's not a good feeling. I mean, Ben Gay does a lot to get you through a day.
Now, I knew you'd get that in there somewhere about the Ben Gay.
Well, I mean, Ben Gay's been very good for me in my life.
Absolutely, it has been. You're absolutely right.
No, but you know, we use it, so you gotta say it.
You've got to talk about it. You've got it.
But you know, it can only do so much, and I've had my share of injuries. I've had 5 knee injuries, and separated this shoulder. And when I was really young, I didn't take pride in getting physically ready for games like I do now, but I didn't stretch properly, and I've had some pulled hamstrings and things like this. But most of the injuries that I've had were of the knee variety, from sliding or getting my feet caught in that stupid turf in Kansas City, or the shoulder injuries, which, you know, if you hurt your shoulder, separate or dislocate your shoulder, or tear cartilage and ligaments in your knee, that's 6 to 8 weeks. Well, I've had 5 of them, or 3 in my right knee, 2 in my left. I still wear a big brace in my right knee when I play, and I've had this shoulder operated on, and this shoulder never operated on, but it could probably use one. So, you know, a lot of it was from playing and stupid plays, routine plays that, you know, you didn't pull your foot out of the turf high enough before you pivoted.
That's right.
And as a result, it torqued your knee, and you tore ligaments in your knee.
And the thing about it is, the next one we're going to look at here is you have played more games on artificial turf than any player in American League history, and it really took its toll.
I think it did take your toll, and I know the Royals are contemplating putting in real grass, and you know, you have the best groundskeeper in the world in George Toma, and you know, you do a few minor changes to the ballpark. I think you could make Kansas City almost like a Camden Yards. You know, you could do just a minor facelift to it. I think with George Toma's groundskeeping ability and the new drainage systems that they've come up with in the last 20 years, you don't need AstroTurf here, and that's one thing that I'm going to try to relay to the front office when the season's over, when I get involved in as a vice president. If we can do it, and if it's the budget, let's go ahead and do it, because they don't know. I mean, people that work in the office don't know what it does to your body. Play. And it's not a good thing for your body.
Okay, you've had a hit off 626 different pitchers and home runs off 198 different guys. But the toughest guy for you, I mean, can you pick one guy, or were there a couple guys up there that you just, you know, you just said, oh, that guy's pitching tonight?
Well, no, not really. I never went into a game like that, because once you go into a game like that, you're defeated.
Yeah, you're done.
And you know, if you got a challenge ahead to you, or ahead of you, the best thing you can do is just say, hey, he's got me in the past, but I'm going to get him tonight. So, you know, I think when I'm through playing, which I have 6 more games to do, and then I can look back and maybe someone will bring a stat sheet to me and tell me the highs and lows of the pitchers, then I can say, well, yeah, you know, that guy gave me trouble, or this guy gave me trouble, but until then, I really can't say.
You weren't in the minor leagues very long, but you were in Billings for a while. You were in Billings for a while. Do you have any memories of that minor league experience?
I'll tell you the best memory I have. I signed out of high school. Well, no, I put in my full year in Billings, but I signed out of high school and left that day. And we practiced in Billings, Montana for a couple days, and then we jumped on a bus. The bus, we had like 23 players, I think, on the team. A manager, our manager was Gary Blaylock, who used to be a pitching coach here, and now he's a special assistant scout for the Detroit Tigers. But, you know, here I am, and I'm calling the guy coach, and he says, I'm not your coach, I'm your manager. Call me Skipper or Gary, whatever. You know, we're professionals at this level. I'm saying, okay, coach. And I sit next to a guy, Mark Littell. We all know who Mark Littell is, pitched for the Royals in 74, 75. Well, Mark and I played in Rookie League together. We played in AAA together, and then he made it to the major leagues a little ahead of me in 1974. And we played here until 76. He gave up the home run to Chambliss in 76. But I'm sitting next to Mark Littell in this small bus, and we're looking out the window going through Yellowstone National Park. And it's beautiful country. Growing up in Southern California, you don't see stuff like that.
No, you don't see anything like that.
So I'm sitting on Mark's right, and we're looking out the window, and we got like a 14-hour bus ride. You know, you don't charter planes like you do in the major leagues back then, and we're making $500 a month and getting $3 a day meal money, you know. So I'm sitting next to Mark on the bus, and I'm going, asking him questions, and he's going, huh? The whole time, huh? And finally, after about 3 hours, I said, are you deaf? He said, huh? And I swear to God, I said, are you deaf? He says, yeah, I'm deaf in this ear. I'm not deaf in this ear. From Hunton. He grew up in Gideon, Missouri, down in the Boot Hills, the south of Missouri. So I said, you want to change seats? I swear to God, he said, huh?
And that's
my one story, from Billings, Montana.
Hey, how about 3-time punt, pass, and kick winner? I mean, now...
How'd you find that?
Now, hey, we've got it all. Now, wait a minute. 3 times in a row.
Don't tell Carl Peterson that. Don't tell Carl.
3 times. Why? He might have you over to do it.
Well, I was over at practice the last week before we left town. I went over and watched practice one day, and they were gearing up for the big game. I don't know. It's... When I was a youngster, I loved football. That was my dream.
I was going to say,
my dream was to take over Joe Namath's job with the New York Jets. I wanted to be a New York Jet, and I wanted to be a quarterback, and I wanted to upseed Joe Namath. However, when you don't start for your high school football team in your senior year as a quarterback, I did start a couple games, and then I got demoted to backup because I was one of those guys, Frank, that if he heard footsteps, I would just launch it and start running so I wouldn't get blindsided. And the coach didn't like that after 2 games, so he made me a defensive back and wide receiver.
So much for your football. Well, you're smart playing baseball instead of football, right? You always say that. Hey, listen, today you moved into 10th all by yourself, past Ted Williams and Jimmy Fox on the all-time extra base hit list. And I know that, your hit, the George Brett signature hit, was the double. It really was.
It was a line, just your basic line drive up the middle, and the guy tried to shoestring it and hit off his wrist and trickled away about 5 or 6 feet. And, if you run hard to first base, and that's something that I've always tried to do, that's a double. Mm-hmm. If you don't run hard to first base, it's a single.
Always going to be a single.
And it was a double. So that was a very proud moment. I was just as happy as that as I was the 3-run home run in the 4th. And just as happy with that as the home run in the 10th inning to win the ball game. That gives me as much thrill as anything.
Okay, when we come back, your lovely wife Leslie is going to join us, and your mom Ethel's going to join us. She's in town, and we'll be back with them next. First, take a look at these stats. More proof that George Brett is one of baseball's all-time greatest hitters. We have now George, and to his immediate left, of course, his lovely wife Leslie. And Leslie, I know yesterday. We're getting Mom wired up over here, folks. Live TV, But, we couldn't find Mom. This is live. But, Les, yesterday for you, very emotional day for you. And I know you have bittersweet feelings about this situation. You like to see him retire, but now he's going to be around all day,
Oh, I'm happy for him. I'm happy to have him home more, home with the baby more. And it was ready. I mean, he was ready. I could tell he was ready. I've been able to tell pretty much all year. And like he said, he can't get up in the morning and walk right. I mean, that's what people don't see. They say, oh, he can come back. Everywhere I go, everyone's like, oh, is he going to play? He should play. But they don't see that part of it. So I was happy that he came to the conclusion himself. And I think it was time. And I think he's going to enjoy his new job more than he thinks he is.
Did you anticipate him not playing this year after 3,000 hits last year? Did you have an inkling maybe he won't come back, or you thought he would?
I knew he was going to play. I didn't even go to the last game last year. It was a Sunday day game. I was pregnant. We'd been out all night the night before. That whole week was a real hectic week with 3,000 hits in California. And I just said, honey, I'm not going to go to the game. Do you care? I'm going to sleep in. And he said, no, I don't care.
So
and when he said that, I thought he's going to play next year, because he would have said, you better go to the game today. So I kind of knew that he was going to come back.
Well, she is going to Texas.
Yeah, right. And I've been planning to go to Texas for the last couple months, because I've kind of anticipated that it would be his last game.
How long have you really known? Was it from the beginning of the season, or was it a change in mood from George?
All-Star break, or at least the last couple of months. He really has. If he didn't come out and say it, I could just tell.
Yeah, right. Did you verbalize it much between each other? You said you didn't.
Not really.
Didn't just really come out with definitive.
Not really. Last year, when there was the discussion, it was, well, if you play, I'm behind you. If you don't play, I'm behind you. And I really didn't want to get into that this year. And, I kind of made up my mind, and she could tell. And she could tell by my attitude around the house. And
when you got in at 5 in the morning in Seattle, and I was there, and I was asleep, and he came in, and he said, if this isn't a reason to quit, I don't know.
And how much did the birth of Jackson, did you see a change in George once Jackson was born and he realized, wow, that little boy is my life?
I've seen a tremendous change in him. I knew he was going to love him, but I don't think either one of us realized how much it was going to change our lives, and he's the greatest thing to ever happen to us.
And you missed him a lot. You're on the road and gone.
Yeah. My wife left him. We were in Seattle and Oakland the last road trip, and she had never been away from him. And her parents came in and stayed at the house and helped Kathleen watch him, and she was gone for 4 days. And she said the same thing I always said every time I came off a road trip. I can't believe how much bigger he got.
Yeah.
You know, here she's been with him for over 6 straight months, every day. And then she left him for 4 days, and I called her Sunday when we got into Oakland. She was already back from Seattle, and I said, well, you know, how's Jackson? George, I couldn't believe how much bigger he got.
So she
And
said
I
the
said,
same
see,
thing
now
you were.
that's what I went through every time I went away. But that really had no bearing. I mean, being a father and being a newlywed, that had no bearing. I mean, the game beat me. It really did. And, you know, I'm looking forward to my new role as a Boal, but I'm also looking forward to being a full-time father.
You bet. Let's talk to Ethel. George's mom, Ethel Johnson, joins us. Ethel, thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight.
Flew all the way in from California for this.
Just for this. We got her in on the Learjet today. You bet. We just dropped her. You know, she's been here all weekend and enjoying this time. And when did you think that your son would finally say, I think I've had enough baseball?
I just figured after they had the baby, and I know he's getting tired of traveling.
And you're getting tired of chasing them to and from across the country.
Well,
right?
you know, this has been going on since Billings, Montana.
Yeah. For you, you're right, absolutely.
Playoffs, World Series,
all right.
3,000 hit, coming back here.
Right. Did you expect him to play this year? Did you think he'd play?
I thought he'd play.
And did you think this year would then be his last?
I wasn't sure, but I thought he'd probably give it up.
All right, now we've heard all these great things about George. We've been blowing his head up with all this ego. Now, I know if I hadn't participated in athletics and gone the road, I'd probably be serving time in Leavenworth right now, okay? George, now, couldn't have been this great as a kid, all the way growing up. He had to have a few little bad traits about him that only a mom would know about. Mom?
Losing his homework when he was a kid.
When I didn't know the answers, I wasn't a good kid. You know, I was in a bad
After school, he'd go to the playground, and he'd come home, and I said, where's your homework? His dad would say, where's your homework?
Oh, sure. Uh-oh.
I lost it. Well, you go back to the playground and you find it. Don't you come home until you find it. Well, George, he always was told that the policeman was his best friend. So he goes to the police department. He's afraid to go home.
That's where he went, huh?
So the policeman took him home.
That was it, huh? But a lot of great memories for you.
Frank, I had a problem. I was the youngest of 4 boys.
Yeah.
So by the time my excuse came around, they had already heard it 3 times. You know, the tolerance had kind of dried out a little bit, and it was, you know, we've heard that before.
Yeah, you're right.
My oldest brother, John, should have had the easiest time, but...
How about for magic moments for you in George's career? Does any stand out, or are you just amazed that your son has done all the things he's done in baseball?
Well, I think the most magic one was when they won the World Series.
Yeah, because you got a chance to dance with Stan Musial in the train.
That's right.
The train between... That's all she talked about. The train between Kansas City and St. Louis.
She took the train, and the governor of Missouri invited her in the governor's car, and Stan was in the car, and my mom got to dance with Stan, and for the whole time
you're telling tales nobody knows.
The whole time in St. Louis, all she talked about was what a nice man Stan Musial was.
That's great. Well, that was a crowning moment in Kansas City Royals history.
She was with Mrs. Quirk the whole time, and Beverly Obradovich, I think.
Yeah.
And the 3 of you were traveling around for 2 weeks together.
2 weeks.
Going back and forth every city, you know.
I'll bet the great thing for you, too, is to see he has retained a lot of his old boyhood friends, Obradovich, as you just brought up, and all of his friends here who are not baseball players. And he retained those people.
He's got wonderful friends here.
Yes. And that says a lot about him.
I know a lot of people ask me, do you think he'll ever move back to California? And I said, no way.
No way.
This is his home.
You bet. Well, Ethel, thank you for joining us. Leslie, thank you for opening your home to us. And George, just thanks for 20 great years and all the memories you've had here for the Kansas City Royals.
Frank, I would have let you in my house, but I don't have a key yet.
Okay. You couldn't lock me out, right? Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you all for joining us and staying up late with us this evening. As we close, a very special presentation of George Brett and some of the greatest memories that he's brought to this city and this franchise. And, well, we're going to miss number 5. Good night, everyone.
Hits it high and deep to right field. Goodbye. Way up there.
Nobody does it better. Makes me feel sad for
So after 5 days of some serious soul searching, I have decided to retire. The one thing that I'm proud of most, and I say this sincerely, is spending my whole career with one team.
And nobody does it better.
Oh my gosh, they called him out, and here comes George Brett out to argue.
Boy, don't do
He's
anything.
driven.
Though sometimes I wish
George Brett is trying to get out.